There's no denying that the most iconic figure in American history is George Washington. Who knows if there would even be a United States of America without him? His leadership, presence, and fortitude held the American military together long enough to secure independence from the British. As leader of the underdog Continental Army during the American Revolution, General Washington's safety was vital to American success against the Redcoats. The Americans barely won the war, so it raises an intriguing question. If Washington was killed or captured during the war, would the Patriots still come out victorious? In my opinion, if the British were able to kill or capture Washington, especially during the beginning or middle periods of the war, I do not think the Americans would have been victorious. Washington was appointed general and commander in chief of the underfunded Continental Army. Washington and the Continental Congress understood the importance of keeping him safe, so the Commander in Chief Guard, an early version of the Secret Service, was authorized on March 11, 1776. Washington initially requested each Army regiment send him 4 men. Washington wanted a group of sober, intelligent, and reliable men. His orders outlined the type of men he hoped to recruit.
His Excellency depends upon the colonels for good men, such as they can recommend for their sobriety, honesty and good behavior. He wishes them to be from 5 feet 8 inches high, to 5 feet 10 inches, handsomely and well made, and as there is nothing in his eyes more desirable than cleanliness in a soldier, he desires that particular attention be made in the choice of such men as are clean and spruce.
The number of the men in the unit fluctuated throughout the war. It started off with about 50 men, but increased to 250 during the winter of 1779-80, when the Army encamped at Morristown, New Jersey, in close proximity to the British Army. Captain Caleb Gibbs was selected to be the first commander of the unit. The task fell to Gibbs to organize the new unit, whose motto was "Conquer or Die." The explicit mission of the new group was to protect General Washington, the Army's cash, and the official papers. The unit's uniforms were blue with red vests. The Commander-in-Chief's Guard, commonly known as Washington's Life Guard, faced many challenges both externally and internally. First, Washington was on the battlefield for many battles throughout the war, increasing the risk of something happening to him. Assassination attempts were always a threat, along with keeping a constant eye out for traitors, even amongst the Life Guard. In the spring of 1776, shortly after the Life Guard was formed, while Washington was preparing to defend New York City from a British attack, it was uncovered that one of the Life Guards, Thomas Hickey, was conspiring with a group of men, included David Matthews, the Loyalist mayor of New York City, and William Tryon, the British-appointed governor of New York, to assassinate General George Washington. The plot was discovered after Hickey was jailed on suspicion of counterfeiting. While in jail, he bragged to his fellow inmates about being part of a loyalist plot to kill Washington and his mission of recruiting others in the Life Guard to the loyalist cause. Unfortunately for Hickey, his bragging entered the wrong ears, and the plot was reported to the Committee for Detecting and Defeating Conspiracies, which was essentially composed of Patriot intelligence officers and spies. Sounds like an early version of the CIA. The committee was formed and ran by John Jay, and he's credited with being the founder of counterintelligence in America. Hickey pleaded innocent to the charges, but was found guilty on June 26, 1776. Just 2 days later, Hickey, an Irishman who had been a deserter from the British Army and ironically handpicked by Washington to be on the guard, was hanged in New York City before 20,000 onlookers. He was the first individual to be executed for treason against what would become the United States. By Washington's orders, all soldiers who were not on duty at the time were present at the execution, clearly sending a message to the rest of the soldiers of the consequences of treason. The following April, when the Guard was reformed due to expiring enlistments, Washington made a rule forbidding any British deserters from being a part of the Life Guard. When Washington was on the battlefield, the Life Guard would fight alongside the larger military units during the battles, along with having the responsibility of protecting Washington at the same time. They participated in several battles in 1776, including the battles of Long Island, White Plains, and the Battle of Trenton, in which Washington famously decided to cross the icy Delaware River on Christmas night and secured a surprise attack victory. He wasn't actually standing in the boat while crossing the river. It just makes for a better picture. The following week, Washington secured another victory in Princeton, boosting the Continental Army's spirits going into the winter encampment that year. The lifeguard always performed well in battle, and more importantly, was able to keep Washington safe. Washington's headquarters constantly changed throughout the war as he traveled around with the Army, and he tended to stay at military camps or houses belonging to Continental Army officers or sympathetic civilians. Wherever Washington stayed, the lifeguard was close by. Topography and geographical features were exploited to protect the headquarters. When Washington was headquartered at the Fort Estate in Morristown, New Jersey, during the hard winter of 79-80, the lifeguard, who was stationed across the street, had to be on extra high alert due to the proximity of the large amount of British forces just 20 miles away in British stronghold, New York City. The number of men in the lifeguard increased to its highest point throughout the war to 250 due to this high threat. The British knew exactly where Washington was holding up for the winter and were contemplating attacking Washington and trying to overwhelm the lifeguard. The American forces were suffering during this winter, probably reaching its lowest point of the entire war due to the harshness of the weather and lack of provisions. Even though the bulk of the Continental Army was just 5 miles away in Jockey Hollow, I believe this was the best chance for the British to get to Washington, being how vulnerable his forces were. But the extremely brutal weather that winter deterred the British from attempting any attacks. In the spring of 1778, as a testament to the unit's professionalism and military standards, the lifeguard was selected by General Baron Frederick von Steuben, who was training the Americans in European battle techniques, to fulfill the role of demonstration unit for the entire Continental Army. The lifeguards moved amongst units of the Continental Army, demonstrating and training the rest of the Army in von Steuben's methods and principles. The lifeguard was able to protect Washington throughout the remainder of the war, along with all of Washington's official papers and the little cash the Continental Army had, while still fighting in battles. Their reputation continued to grow as an elite unit. During the siege of Yorktown, the final battle of the American Revolution, the lifeguard was by Washington's side when Washington fired the first American cannon of the siege. After the war was concluded, the lifeguard had one final mission: to bring 6 wagons containing Washington's belongings, but more importantly the official records of 8 years of war, to Washington's Mount Vernon estate in Virginia. The lifeguard's work was officially complete with the successful delivery of the documents to Mount Vernon on December 20th, 1783, and more importantly, delivered the man who would become the first president of the United States safely home after 8 years of war. Who knows how different our history books would be if they didn't succeed in their mission of protecting the most iconic figure in American history. Thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Please subscribe for more historical videos. Take care.